The West Virginia Mountaineers have no chance against the Texas Red Raiders, right? Right?
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Is up, guys? Welcome back in. My name is Mountaineer Paul. Welcome back into Locked On West Virginia, and we're going to be doing a crossover episode this week with Texas Tech. My name is Mountaineer Paul. As I said, this is the number one sports podcast network, Locked On. Thank you guys so much for being here. We are excited. It is another week of football, and we're ready to dive in, but I'm not alone. As I said, we got to bring in a guy. He's a sideline reporter. He's got his own website. He's pretty much what I call the voice of Texas Tech, and he's a guy I have a massive amount of respect for. Would love to bring on Chris Level with Locked On Texas Tech, man. How's it going?
Well, Paul, happy Thanksgiving week, my friend. I appreciate the kind words back at you. It's crazy how quickly this season has flown by. We talk about it all off season and summertime, and then here we are near the end. So, a lot of my man Tony Caridi and all the folks up there in Morgantown. Never an easy place to play.
It's going to be a lit atmosphere, I would imagine. And when Morgantown's rocking, it's definitely up there in the top 2 or 3. So we're excited about that, at least probably from a homer standpoint. I believe that. I don't know how outsiders feel about that. But yeah, so Morgantown will be rocking in this game. And a lot of the Big 12 stadiums are really good anyways. You can a bunch of places. Storylines in this game, obviously, and up into the season leading up to now. I think a lot of West Virginia fans would love to hear about Jacob Rodriguez, and I think a lot of Texas Tech fans, you mentioned to me yesterday, want to hear about this turnaround in Rich Rod and what it's looking like now and some things. So what questions did you have about that?
Well, yeah, so let's just get into to educate the Texas Tech fans. It's interesting. I look at some of these teams in the league, and you look at as you mentioned, these programs kind of change and they morph, based on injury or it's hey, what we thought was going to work isn't working, so let's change it, and then you're kind of a different version of yourself. West Virginia's got a couple of wins over really good teams, or at least their record would suggest that, a couple of 8-win teams in Pitt and Houston. But how different is this team personnel-wise and schematic-wise compared to how you started the season or what Rich Rod wanted to do back in, say, August?
Schematically, they're exactly the same. Rich Rod famously doesn't change, right? But, he does change a little bit. But, for the most part, it's the same up-tempo. We're going to be us type situation. We're going to be what he says. People talk about being tough and mentally tough. We actually practice that every single day. There's a really high standard within that. It's kind of what he's famous for, is for being a really tough coach to play for. Being physically fit is a big deal to him. He wants to bring in the deep waters in the fourth quarter. That is this team. They're going to be in really good shape. If they run 80 or 85 plays on you and you've got your hands on hips, they're going to be fine come that. So I think that part of the identity is starting to really sink in. But as far as the personnel goes, obviously a radical change. You start out the season with Nico Marchiol, Jaheim White, one of the best running backs in the Big 12. And then you had this kid, Ty Edwards, who a lot of people were really, really excited about, get hurt in his first action against Pitt when he basically carried you to a win over Pitt. And it is now you run through your first, second, third, and fourth string quarterbacks. You run through your first, second, third, and fourth string running backs. Literally, not even an exaggeration here. In a first-year head coach with 81 new players, when you replaced your top 8 offensive linemen, I challenge anybody to win with that situation. And Rich Rodriguez has made no excuses at all. He's coming every week with the next man up mindset, which you expect your coach to do. He's taking responsibility when the team is taking on losses and not letting his players do that. And some players have quit on the team along the way as well. And at the end of the day, this team is playing its best football. Should have beat Arizona State, should have beat TCU. They were in those games with one possession to go in those games. And you beat a Houston team, whacked them. Really, it wasn't even that close. We were ahead of that game by multiple scores for the entirety of that game. So I think this is a team that's playing well. Arizona State was a team like they're hurt too. Obviously, they're not the same iteration that beat you guys, but this is they're still that same defense, and Raleek Brown is still that running back, and they really played well in that game. Lost the game by 2 points, Chris. So I think West Virginia fans are happy with where the turnaround is, and I said a couple weeks ago, if Rich Rod gets this team to a bowl game, obviously that's not happening now. I would give him some votes for Coach of the Year in the conference based on everything that's happened.
Yeah, and I saw his comments after that Arizona State game, and he kept going. We couldn't run it this far. We got to be able to run it this far.
That's the big issue.
Yeah, he was obviously frustrated. Tell me about Scotty Fox. He's a guy that I think Coach McGuire is aware of. And all that, but he's been throwing it around quite a bit,
yeah.
And he's a freshman, and so I think he's been thrown into a difficult situation, and he's been pretty good. Gives you some hope.
He does. He's auditioning, but a lot of people think he's kind of there's a big section of the fan base that wants to see him come back next year and Rich Rod not go look for a portal kid. I think we may bring in competition for Scotty, but I think Scotty's put on a pretty good show. Scotty Fox is a dual threat. Obviously, he's won a game with his legs this year against Houston. He's won games with his arm this year. And, his first start when he had 30 dropbacks against TCU, put up over 300 yards in that game. He only had 30 dropbacks coming into the game in his career. It has been thrown into this. Now, what I found funny, Chris, was obviously I follow recruiting and the portal really big. And a lot of times I'll get into contact with those players as a lot of us do. And just to figure out what the situation is, if, all that. And a lot of these guys that have committed to West Virginia had been talking about Scotty Fox as the player that they were talking up the most as far as the future of the program, and not quarterbacks that are on the roster. So he was getting a lot of hype behind the scenes from players that I was hearing about way early in the season. So I had known that he was somebody they really liked. And then Rich Rod said multiple times, he's got the quickest release I've ever seen. He can make all the throws. Like, these kinds of things were being said really early. And then he came in and proved it. He does have a really quick release, very similar to, I would say, probably the Cincinnati quarterback, a very similar release, right? Very quick release kid. And then he can run around too. I mean, he's not an elite runner, but I would say a very good runner, so but he's capable of running the offense. He's been tough. He's been a leader. He's really everything that you ask for. He needs to put on some weight. He's not really able to take the load as far as what the running part of this as much, and they're having to supplement that way.
Biggest weapon he's got at his disposal at this point with the offense currently constructed would be who?
Cam Vaughn. Cam Vaughn, in my opinion, and I'm not even being a homer here, I don't feel like, would be a top 5 to 6 wide receiver in this league pretty easily if we just had an offense that was capable of throwing it more right now. We just don't, because of the way the offense is constructed, and we have a freshman. And so he's shown up in multiple games this year. He's a guy that had, as a freshman, or redshirt freshman last year, with Rich Rod, almost 60 catches, almost 1,000 yards at Jackson State. We brought him in to be the number one receiver. We paid him to be the number one receiver. He's been that at times. He's 6'2", about 180 pounds, runs a 4.3 40. He's extremely explosive. But unfortunately, he struggles with press man a little bit. And so he has been ridden out of some games, but for the most part, if he gets in a pretty easy release or a nice release on somebody, he's a guy that can really blow by you. And West Virginia's made that an impact a couple times this year. And Dior Hubbard, I'll throw him in there really quick too. The redshirt freshman running back that has also been thrown into this is probably our second best offensive player right now.
Okay. Yeah, and obviously, Texas Tech has been. I knew they would be good, but there's levels to this, right? And you could win 7 or 8 games and be pretty good based on your injury situation, your schedule. But I don't know if I knew they would be this good. We talked all summer. And there was a lot said and written about what Texas Tech had put together and what they had built and everything. And, you kept going, okay, well, I know that this guy may be a future draft pick, or this is supposed to be this and all that. But until it comes together, until you start seeing some consistency with it, you just don't know. And they've been, especially on defense, they've just been better than I ever could have imagined. I mean, Paul, last year, this was a defense that ranked in the 120s in total defense. Their pass defense was, I think, second to last in the country. And so they made changes, not just personnel-wise, but with their coaching staff, changed their defensive coordinator and all that stuff. And now it's and I don't say this to – it's legitimately one of the better units in the country, or it has been to this point. And it's just – this is foreign to myself and these eyes. And I kept, as you're going through it, I'm like, okay, well, they haven't done this yet, or they haven't beaten this team yet, or you didn't really have any sort of difficulty on the schedule in the non-conference. And so you just didn't know what was what. But that's been very fascinating to kind of follow that around here. And you do have legitimately a couple of players that are some of the best in the country at what they do, and Jacob Rodriguez and David Bailey, one of the
Romello Height.
I'll
throw him in there too.
Yeah. And Lee Hunter, the defensive tackle, who's a second-team All Big 12 guy from UCF last year. Yeah. He was really one of the only Power Four transfers that they brought in. Everybody else is really a Group of Five guy. But
is that right? I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's part of their philosophy. There was one of their corners was from Mississippi State, but then they brought in 23 guys, and there's 3 to 4 that were Power Four guys. We're talking the tight end came from Louisiana, the starting receiver came from Miami of Ohio. One of their D tackles came from, Romello Height would be the other one that, and then David Bailey would be Stanford. But the Stanford thing only happened just simply because they've made a change with their coach.
Same thing with Bear Bachmeyer.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, that's exactly right. So a lot of Group of Five flavor, and just good players at a lower level that have come in here and acclimated quickly. And
what an evaluation!
Yeah, and it's been impressive.
Wow. Let's go to break, and we'll talk about some of those guys that we didn't mention in a little more detail, especially Jacob Rodriguez and others. What a year he's had. I mean, everybody knows about it now, but it wasn't always that way. We'll let Chris tell us how it came to be, and a little bit about West Virginia too, right after the break. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia, Locked On Texas Tech is going to be brought to you by our good friends at Wayfair, guys. The holiday season is right around the corner, and that means it's time to get your home ready. Whether you need the seating for guests, cozy new linens, or fun serveware for holiday hosting, Wayfair's Black Friday sale is here to help you make your space shine. The best part, you don't have to wait. Wayfair's Black Friday days are happening all month long, baby, with 70% everything up to sofas to spatulas. I recently upgraded my dining chairs. And look, guys, Wayfair had it completely transformed, and the room is totally transformed. Don't miss out on Black Friday deals, if I could talk here. Head to wayfair.com now to shop. Wayfair's Black Friday sale for up to 70% off. That's WAYFAIR.com. The sale ends December 7th. We are back in segment 2 with the Locked On West Virginia, Locked On Texas Tech crossover with Chris Level. Thank you so much for joining in with us, guys, as we discuss some players to watch in this game. Really curious to know about some of Texas Tech's backstory with some of their players. And I'd mentioned Jacob Rodriguez heading into this. What is your thought behind how this all came to be? Because this is just truly one of the best stories in all college football.
Well, I've known Jacob for 7 or 8 years or so, because he played high school football at Wichita Falls, which is about 2.5 hours away from Lubbock. Wow. And he would play against one of the Lubbock schools repeatedly because they were the two best teams in the district. So there was 7 or 8 matchups over the 2 years, because they would play in the regular season every year, and then they would go 3 or 4 rounds deep in the playoffs and play each other again. And so it was interesting because he was a quarterback, obviously. He was a quarterback, and then whenever it got to crunch time, he would play a little safety. But I knew when Joey got him to walk on here, I was like, oh, I know this kid. I know him very well. He's just really good at football. But never in anybody's wildest dreams would you have envisioned that. And I don't know if he's a legitimate Heisman candidate or not. Obviously, there's a lot
been
of
thrown out there.
Yeah, sure. There's a lot of publicity there. They're trying to push that. His statistics are a lot better than Manti Te'o's from several years ago, and he was a finalist.
Yeah.
He's got more forced turnovers than some teams in the league all by himself. And so that's what has been interesting. But he's a gem of a human. That's very humble, very grounded. Obviously, everybody's well aware of his wife being a Black Hawk military helicopter for the Army. Her sister flies jets for the Air Force. And then the youngest sister, I believe, graduated from Texas Tech. And so they just always kind of had this link to Texas Tech. And she's stationed about 20 minutes outside of Manhattan, Kansas, at the Army base there. And so they've got a home there, but I think they may need to change plans because he's going to get drafted. He's going to get drafted. I mean, fairly
not
high.
like she could get drafted.
Well, yeah, exactly. And he will have a professional career. But he's just, I mean, like around here, like Zach Thomas is the holy grail when you're talking linebackers at Texas Tech, who's an NFL Hall of Famer.
Of course.
And about a month, 6 weeks ago, somebody was like, man, I think he might be as good as Zach. And when I first heard that, I was like, I was like, yeah, whatever. And I think he may be better, Paul, at least in their college careers.
Wow.
Because of what they're doing. Now, Jake would be the first one to tell you he's got a lot of help around him because he's got an unbelievable defensive line in front of him. It allows him to, he's clean all the time. He can see the picture and he's able to make plays and all that. But some of the forced fumbles are just like, it's just crazy.
Efforting.
Yeah. He punches the ball out. And anyway, he's been a bright light for a really fun season around here. There's just no doubt about it.
Yeah. What a story that is. Really, really happy to see it and love to see it happen to good people. Yeah. It's so cool that you've known him for 8 years. It seems like every time I talk to you about somebody, you've known him for 8 years or something. You just have this wide expanse of network that you have available to you because of what you've done for a living for so long. Sports are your life. And so a lot of times in the sports space, you just have all these connections. I can only imagine what it's like to be Chris Level for a day.
It's not that big of a deal, but I'm a big relationships guy. That's why we do what we do. Relationships and trust, and you stay in touch with people and you check in on people when they, you don't need anything. But
I love that.
I love that. Yeah. So, and on Thanksgiving week, it's like, just gives you some good perspective. But no, we're both honored to get to do what we do and be around fun people. And it's always much more fun when you're winning. I've been part of teams because I do football and basketball at Texas Tech for the radio broadcast. And I travel with the teams, and there's been many years where it's not been a lot of fun. But that's what you see a lot inside of people and what people are really about when they feel a little pressure and things aren't going well and there's jobs being talked about. It's tough, man. Because like to your audience, I still stay in touch with Neil Brown. I've known Neil for a long time as well. Chad Scott, Matt Moore, the offensive line coach that used to be there, and so many other guys because they spent so much time in Lubbock, 12, 15 years ago. And, wish them well. They're, Chad and Neil are.
Neil might get a job this cycle.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. They're in Austin right now which I can't really root for them when they're at University of Texas, but
of course not.
Hey, but hey, they're
what a staff though.
Yeah, no doubt.
Chad Scott and Neil Brown both. Good Lord.
Yeah, that's right. So, okay, and let me ask you this: if West, because this is an 11 a.m. kick Central Time, it's going to be what is that, noon Eastern Time right. on Saturday. If West Virginia is going to win this game, how would that look? Like, what's the recipe? What must they do? What are the non-negotiables there that gets them to the end to pull off this upset?
Yeah, I think for me, it has to start and end with turnovers. And I know that's so cliche, but I mean, to be honest, it has to happen for us to be in this game. I think you have to get 3 turnovers somehow. 2, maybe, if you're lucky. I wouldn't trust a 2-score lead on Texas Tech by any stretch of the imagination. I just think that they're too good. And if we were able to even get 14 points in this game, that would be a miracle in and of itself. But you're going to have turnovers. And that's just a fact. The defense is going to have to play lights out, which it has at times this year for stretches. They've been really good against the run, against the pass is where they've struggled. But the games we've won this year, the pass rush has been elite. And we've had 2 games this year where we've had 7 sacks or more in a game. One was against Pitt, another against Houston, right? So there's a recipe there. And Zach Alley is one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. We all know that. He's just in his first year. And they didn't get until December. So they had to scrape over the second options. And this is what they built the team out of. So that's a piece of this. And then I'd say lastly, for me, Scotty Fox is going to have to play his best game ever. And if you want to really show everybody that you're the guy going into next year, pull off the upset win over Texas Tech, and there will be no portal quarterback for West Virginia next year.
Yeah, I would agree. I think he puts that on his resume, and people will be and to me, this game, it's going to be colder and all those things. But to me, this is going to be all about the run game and where that goes for both teams. I think if you're Texas Tech, I think you want to try to make Scotty Fox beat you. Like, hey, let's take away one aspect of what you're doing and then force you to throw it and turn that pass rush loose. And for Texas Tech on offense, they've been able to run it on pretty much everybody pretty consistently, except for Arizona State. That was you caught Arizona State when they played their best game of the year, and they were fully healthy then, and it was sold out. It was ugly that day, and you still held a lead with 2 minutes to go in the game and just couldn't pull it off. But if Texas Tech can run the ball well in this one, like their average kind of day with Cam Dickey, and that's the thing. This portal class that Texas Tech brought in, there's a few of these pieces. Like Quentin Joyner was one of the best skill players they brought in the deal. He got hurt in August. And so this was a running back that was one of the top portal guys that came in from USC. He's originally from Houston. He hadn't played it down all year. And so he'll be back next year. And so you kind of looking at this thing before the season going, okay, running back's a question. Like, how's this going to go? And they liked the 2 players that they had, but Cam Dickey, all he's done is he's the leading rusher in the Big 12 Conference before last weekend. Okay, so they were off this weekend, so that meant that obviously I don't know if that holds true now, but he's going to be over 1,000 yards with any kind of day on Saturday. And then Jacoby Williams, I think, is 11th in the country in all-purpose yards.
What a dynamite player he is!
Yeah. He's just a Swiss Army knife. I mean, he just, he's a returner. They'll throw it to him, and
his name sounds like he would be too.
Yeah. Well, he's just got some juice, and he you can be plodding along, and then he'll bust one or throw a screen to him, and then like you flip the field and look out, or he takes it. But but those 2 guys. So how West Virginia defends that aspect, I think, will go a long way in determining it. It would bode very well if Texas Tech has a typical rushing. But if they can't, you're going to be dealing with Baron Morton, who has got a bit of an injury. And I think the bye week probably helped. Okay, just the rest. But he's not, super mobile right now. He can move around, but he's just not. He's got a hairline fracture in his leg. Okay, so he's going to
wild that he's playing with that.
I know, and he's going to try to get rid of the ball quickly and try not to take too many hits and all these kinds of things. So it's just, and again, you mentioned turnovers. I'm going to sound real cliche in that it's really about the run game in this thing, and some weather. It's stop it and who can do it for both teams really probably goes a long way in this one. But
praying for snow
because Texas Tech, they haven't clinched. As we're sitting here talking, they haven't clinched anything yet. There's nothing. It's all on the table. They have to come in guns a-blazing and win to get in kind of thing. As far as just being in Arlington, much less the CFP and all the stuff that everybody's kind of trying to project them. This, that, all that is hogwash because you haven't even clinched a spot to play for your conference championship just yet. Now, that could change the night before this game is kicked off, because if Arizona beats Arizona State in the Territorial Cup,
very doable.
Yeah, which I agree, because Arizona's been one of those sneaky good teams this year. And if they pull off that one, then Texas Tech, the result here doesn't matter. They're in to Arlington. It would just affect the CFP aspect, and
what you need,
right? And then can you host a game? Are you gonna drop?
That's so
if you
big.
All these kinds of things. So this is what we're talking about here.
Things we haven't thought about in Morgantown for a long time. I mean, ever really, because it hasn't been this iteration of the playoff. But
same boat, man. This is all foreign. I mean, these conversations.
That's got to be so fun.
It's wild. It's literally wild, and
every day's a dream.
Well, yeah, and you see these folks ranking. I mean, Texas Tech was one of, prior to the first CFP rankings that came out about a month ago, Texas Tech was one of 5 Power 4 programs that had never been ranked. And West Virginia wasn't on that list. Texas Tech was one of 5 teams that had never been in the top 25 at any given point, and they were able to check that off. And you're just trying to get to Arlington and play for a conference championship. It's just a hungry scenario, and at this point, Paul, you haven't accomplished even a spot in that. So that's where you're at here.
Yeah, I agree. We got to get to break here. On the other side, guys, we kind of touched on the game keys, but I'll ask Chris how he thinks this game's going to go. I'll try to make a prediction on that as well and what the score is right after the break. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia, Locked On Texas Tech crossover, going to be brought to you by our good friends at Game Time. Right now, guys, with Game Time, college football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But we got to be real. Actually, getting tickets can feel a lot more like the battle than the game itself. You got endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time. It's the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Probably the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see, what you pay. I pulled up Game Time, and in just a couple taps, I saw amazing deals. Talking about your favorite college football games for as low as $25. And look, if you want to take the guesswork out of buying tickets, you do it with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create that account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase where the terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off today. Swipe, tap, ticket, go download Game Time today, and then you can answer the question of all questions. What time is it? It's game time. Have fun with that, Reed. Chris, appreciate you for being here, man.
Back at you, man. Yes, sir.
You're a great person. I mean that. Everybody looks up to you. I think most people aspire to be where you're at in this. You've got a lot of years in. So, no, I don't think anybody's under delusion that they get there just by existing. But I do want to say, it's from somebody on this side of it. I look up to what you do, man, and always appreciate having you on.
Well, you're nice. I mean, I've enjoyed getting to know you since we hooked up and we're teammates now, and I certainly appreciate the kind words. But you're well on your way, my friend. And aim higher, man. You can do a lot better than what I'm doing. Yeah, aim higher.
I'll try to do Tony Caridi then, since you.
There you go. That's right. Yeah, TC is good people for sure.
What an elite play-by-play guy he is.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, so we talked about game keys and what they are from a kind of a neutral point of view, right? So what do the game? What's the game look like in your mind? Like, if you're just going to say, look, Paul, let's just cut the crap. How do you feel like this thing's going to go?
Well, I think. Look, if you could draw up an ideal script on the Texas Tech side of things, it would look very similar to what they did to UCF. Now, sometimes the other guy doesn't want to cooperate. Yeah, sometimes the other guy doesn't want to cooperate. But if you start fast and you try to – and that's the thing that scares you about a West Virginia team, because I don't think they're really going to do this. But
no, not under Rich Rod.
Yeah, with a team that – doesn't have, this is their last game, obviously it's senior day and all the stuff that goes with that. You want to jump on them early and then just see if they're just ready to get to the offseason, whatever. Mm-hmm. But a fast start would certainly, I think, and that also goes into making Scotty Fox have to beat you, because this is what Texas Tech has done to most teams all year. is they get ahead of you. You have to play from behind, and then you have to do things to try to catch up, and that's what just plays into those two edge rushers coming after
Right.
you, and it's just been a pretty good little recipe that they've been able to utilize. But again, coming off of a bye week, both of these teams will be doing that. Sometimes you got to battle a little rust. You don't know exactly what the elements will be like. It will be cold, but you just don't know what the elements. That's why I just go back to the simple things, man. Run it and stop the run. And if you can do that, I would like your chances. And Texas Tech, I think, is either first or second in the country in rush defense right now.
They are.
I mean,
yes.
According
to what I have in front of me here.
Yeah, you just and that's and they're not perfect because teams, Avery Johnson got him a few times in Kansas State.
He's so good though.
Yeah, he is fast.
Yeah.
But once they kind of figure out what you're doing and they adjust to it, it's just teams have struggled. So, again, if you get a typical day, but weird stuff happens this time of year too. But that would be what I would say is, like, ideally you try to start really fast, play from in front. And then again, it just comes down to that line of scrimmage and being able to run it and not allowing West Virginia to do that. So Scotty Fox has to drop back and throw it and do some things maybe he's not necessarily comfortable with.
Yeah. And for me, I think obviously we touched on the turnovers earlier with West Virginia. If you're asking me how this thing is going to go personally, I can be a little bit more blunt about it. I think West Virginia could hang in there till halftime. I do think there's a way that happens with the crowd and with everything. And they've been pretty good at preventing fast starts. They went 3 and out. This is before all the changes, but they went 3 and out on 6 straight possessions versus Kansas. And defense held in there. The defense has been able to do that multiple times this year. It's the big plays that's really killed them. Not that I trust to say our defense is elite defense, but they have the potential to be good if they play their best game. It's one of those defenses where it's like some days are really good, some days they're not. So I think West Virginia can hang around till halftime, but I do think ultimately Texas Tech will pull away in this game. The spread's right around 20 points. That feels about right for me. I'd probably say somewhere along the lines of, I don't know, 45-15, something like that. I think Texas Tech wins pretty easily personally, and I will be so happy if we win or even come close to winning. We just need momentum for the offseason. We've already got a ton going on right now with the basically 5-star tackle that just recruited on the Pat McAfee show instead of Couch on Fire, and we've got some momentum, so we just like to carry that through with on the field.
Yeah, and it's, again, I've been through these kind of seasons where you're essentially trying to rebuild and you're trying to lay the groundwork for the future, and there's just you're trying to win some small victories here and there, and looking for reasons to hope. Certainly get it, and it starts in the trenches. It starts with recruiting victories and then development and all the different things, but. Healthy respect for Morgantown, though. But both the old Coliseum and is it Milan Puskar? Is that
Milan
right?
Puskar Stadium.
Puskar Stadium. Okay,
yeah.
I missed. I had one little letter off.
It's okay. It's
I've been in there.
To pronounce.
I've been in there in rain. I've been in there snow. I've been in there in fog where you couldn't even see across the field. I've been in there in beautiful sunny days. You just never know what you're going to get, but you're getting something.
You're going to get something. Absolutely.
I know. I've been in there when they were displeased with Neil and with Dana.
Right.
Yeah. And all those things. So, but then also when they've been kind of rolling too, when Cliff was going through it on our end of things and struggle. And I think you came out one day and you're up 21-0 or something, and then West Virginia starts to make some plays, and you had a chance to kick a field goal going in the locker room, and you doink it, bounces off the goalpost, the crowd goes nuts, and you came out in the second half, and West Virginia just ran you out of there. So, yeah. Anyway, I had a lady one time. Jason Morrow cut a touchdown pass that was in a win. Had a lady holding a baby in her hand and a beer in the other. And
that was that barn burner, wasn't it? That was a barn burner game. I remember that.
Yeah, that was the Jason Morrow game. And I turned around and after he caught it, and they're celebrating on the sideline, and I just kind of turned around and this lady's holding a baby and a beer, and with the hand with the beer in her hand, she's like flipping us all off, and I was like, man, passionate. I mean,
that's Morgantown.
Yeah, that's right. I loved it. Yeah, I was like, this is great. So anyway, it'll be it'll be a good one, and
yeah,
but yeah, Texas Tech. I mean, right now that they have to win this game, they
right.
have to be the best version of themselves to just get a result here, just to ensure that you're in Arlington, and then try to accomplish some things after that. But we'll keep an eye on it. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours, Paul, and to your listeners. And enjoy the family, friends, and whatever everybody's got going this week. Certainly.
And let everybody know what you got going on over there. Obviously, Locked On Texas Tech podcast. What else you got going on?
Yeah, so Casey Cowan and I are on Locked On Texas Tech 5 days a week at least. Obviously everybody can follow us on RedRaidersports.com, which is part of the On3 network as well, or tune into the Texas Tech version of the radio broadcast as well. But people that are hearing me say that probably already know that. But your
West Virginia fans,
yeah, your folks are going to want to listen to TC and what he's got going on there. So
absolutely,
he does a phenomenal
and if you want to check out what I have going on over here, obviously Locked On West Virginia. I do record 7 days a week, usually twice a day. I have done that for up until last week, 400 days in a row. So we're really trying to stay consistent. So if you're just looking for something to watch, I'll be there. Appreciate you guys so much for being here with us as we broke down the game. Hopefully Morgantown will be inviting to the Red Raiders. I think they will be. And hopefully Chris has a good time, because it's going to be a great atmosphere. We'll see you guys on the next one, guys. Thanks for making Locked On West Virginia and Texas Tech your first listen. But we could ask you to go check out Drake Toll over at Locked On Big 12 for your second listen, as he breaks down the most exciting conference in college sports. That's not a lie. From the rivalries to the championship game and everything in between, you can find Locked On Big 12 on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, guys. For Chris Level, I think, what do you guys say? Guns up? Is that how you say it?
Yes.
Guns up. In West Virginia, we always like to say, don't forget to cue those country roads.